everyone. Today I thought we'd do something kind of fun. This seems to be everybody's favorite. Several of my friends have asked me to do this for you. So today we're going to do General Tso's chicken. My way. It's going to be extra crispy and extra good. Alright, let's start out by making the sauce. First thing I'm going to do is mix all the ingredients together. We're going to take 3 tablespoons of white castor sugar, 3 tablespoons of dark soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of corn flour or cornstarch, 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, cold pressed if you can get it, and 1/2 of a cup of hoisin sauce. This is a sauce made from black soybeans, I believe. Gives it a sweet and savory flavor. So now that we've got all that in the bowl, we're just going to want to mix that up. Let me grab a whisk here real quick. All right, and we just mix this up. All right, to this mixture, we're going to go ahead and add the 1.5 cups of water. And then we'll mix well and get it ready to go on the stove. We're going to use 6 tablespoons of this as a marinade for the chicken. So next we'll cut up the chicken and I'll put it in the marinade. All right, here we have 2 chicken breasts. We're just going to take these chicken breasts and cut them into 1-inch segments so they'll all cook evenly. Basically just any bite-sized piece. You'll find if you keep these chicken breasts cold, they cut a lot easier for you. You don't want them completely thawed out. Maybe just put them in the freezer for about 20 minutes prior to cutting will help you out quite a bit. These are just a little bit on the warm side, so they're having a little bit of trouble. Now, if you wanted to, you could substitute in chicken thighs for this, and it would probably come out maybe even a little better, a little juicy. I just happen to have chicken breasts, so that's what we're using today. But chicken thighs, you know, have a little more higher fat content, so that's going to actually make this just a little bit more juicy. So if you have them, I would use chicken thighs. In fact, they're a lot cheaper in most cases. All right, I've transferred our chopped up cubed chicken into a 1-gallon storage bag. Now we're going to take 6 tablespoons of the marinade that we made. We're going to place it in the bag, and then we're going to save the rest for cooking. All right, now that that's in there, we'll get as much of the air out of there as we can. And we'll give that a good working through. Just about like that should be good. All right, after it gets looking just about like that and all mixed through good, just go ahead and set it. It's always a good idea when you're going to set, you know, raw poultry or any kind of a meat in the refrigerator to set it inside of a pan before we actually set it in there. I'm going to use this original thawing pan. We'll set it in the pan here, put that in the refrigerator, and we'll see it in about an hour and a half. First, we're going to cut up 6 cloves of garlic. You want to use a little common sense here. If your garlic is tiny, itty-bitty small, maybe a couple more cloves. If it's larger garlic, like elephant garlic, something like that, go ahead and add a little less. We're going to mix that with 2 tablespoons of ginger. I'm using stir-in ginger paste. You could buy a ginger knob if you wanted to put that in there. Probably a little fresher, but I find I don't use it enough, so having this around the house makes life just a little bit more easy. If you got what I've got here and you got your ginger starting to stem out like that, just go ahead and chop that stem off. Make sure you take any black spots off the ends as well, and then just go ahead and chop that up. Be, you know, not completely minced. We want it to be just finely chopped. All right, I think for our needs that's about good. We'll go ahead and get it in the pan and start toasting it. We'll toast that for about maybe a minute, minute and a half on a medium-high heat. We don't want to burn the garlic though. Last thing you want to do is burn garlic. It tastes really, really bitter when you do that. All right, to the pan I've added about maybe a tablespoon of a regular vegetable oil. If this wasn't Chinese cuisine, we would probably use something like olive oil or possibly avocado oil. But they don't use a lot of that in Chinese cuisine. So we're going to go ahead and kind of try and keep it as close to traditional as we can. We're going to add in the garlic that we chopped up, those 6 cloves. And then we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of ginger paste. I think that's about 2 tablespoons. Like I said, we're going to only toast this for, probably a minute, minute and a half, something like that. All right, now that we've got that toasted, we're going to go ahead and add in the 2 cups of sauce that we reserved. And now, stirring this constantly, we're going to let this sauce thicken. All right, as soon as that thickens up a bit, we're going to set it off to the side, and then we'll go ahead and start battering our chicken up. All right, what we started doing here is we need to take 3 egg whites. So to do that, of course, we're going to have to separate the yolk from the white. Probably the easiest way to do it would be either with an egg separator or just do what I'm doing here. Pass it back and forth through the shells. Of course, I've done a terrible job here at the shell as soon as I want to show you, but that's kind of how it's done there. Set that over there, and we'll just do one more for you. Hopefully we can do this one properly. And that's the way it's done. Now don't throw away those egg yolks. You can use those for lots of things later on. In fact, maybe I'll try and come up with something tomorrow for those. All right, here we have our mixing station. We'll have 3 egg whites whipped just till they're frothy like that. You know, not so much that it's you know, making peaks and such, but just whipped till they're frothy. Then in here we have 1.5 cups of corn flour or cornstarch, and we also have 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, or in my case, all I had was bread flour, so that's what we're using here. To that, we're going to add, this is the secret here to make everything come up nice and crispy, is we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of Arm & Hammer baking soda. So if I can pour that in there without making too much of a mess. Well, we might have just a little bit more than that, but I think we're fine. There we go. Now to mix this, we're not going to use a whisk or anything. We're going to use a fork because we want it to come together with small lumps in it. We're going to add the rest of the marinade that was left over after we did the reserve of 2 cups. We'll mix these dry ingredients together here real quick so they kind of get incorporated. Now, believe it or not, we want it to be slightly lumpy. That's how we get that crispy texture on the General Tso's chicken. Not the kind that you get from takeout, you know, but by the time it gets to your house, it's basically, you know, goo on a piece of chicken that you can't even describe. This is going to be extra crispy. So we're going to want to drizzle this in there. And we want those lumps. We want to break them apart. You can use your hand, whatever it takes to get these lumps apart. But they should be no more than, you know, half pea size. Make sure it's good incorporated. We don't want any gigantic lumps, of course. And that should be about the texture, as you can see there. All right, off camera, I took the chicken that had been marinating for a couple hours now, and I went ahead and patted it dry to get the excess marinade off of it. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take about half of it, and we're going to set it in our eggs here. We only want to do about half at a time so that we don't, get ahead of ourselves here and miss pieces. Go ahead and get that good and coated in there. Then take it out, place it in the flour. I find the best way to do this is just go ahead and get your hands in there with it. They're going to get a little battered too, but it's the only way to get them good and covered. You want to get every little nook and cranny covered on it. So go ahead and push it in there. Don't squeeze too hard, otherwise you're just going to smash the coating, and you want most of it to stay on there. And those little balls that you've made when you put the marinade in there are going to make extra crunchy bits on there. So make sure you get all sides of it, and then kind of look at each one as you pull it out. I want to fry these kind of in batches. So we'll get our spider out here ready to go. We're going to fry them in 2 separate batches. Kind of being careful putting them in there. Now, if these have been in there about 2 minutes, we're going to want to turn them over so that the other side can brown. All right, now we toss the chicken into the sauce and plate it up with a little basmati rice.